So boom, we're rolling.
We're rolling. Always
Amazing.
rolling.
Live
recording.
From Santa Ana, California.
Home of them skates, Blading Cup.
Jesus Christ.
It's
been crazy
down here.
Yeah, I arrived yesterday. This is my first time ever in California. It's been nuts. First time, because we were driving yesterday, and I heard you say, "Yeah, we're gonna swing by the shop and pick up a box."
Yeah.
And for some reason, I thought we were swinging by like a package receiving facility to pick up the box,
or whatever.
and then all of a sudden we're at the them shop, and this just like this feeling, like, oh my god, that's the them. We're going in there, and it was like a shock to my.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, okay, I need to pee before we go in there.
You didn't need to pee until you got there, and then now it's like...
No, I need to pee. I'm going to pee my pants in there, so...
Yeah, that was fun. And, I mean, when we rolled up, it was perfect timing. John was just outside with Miguel. They're talking logistics for the event, I would assume. So I see John walking down the street. I'm like, oh, there's John.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Yeah, I can only imagine being in your shoes.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was a whirlwind of, Sean Kelso rolls up in his orange skates and like, yeah, it was pretty amazing. I was really excited to meet Miguel Ramos. I absolutely love his content, and his vibe is incredible.
He's such an underground, like, there's always people that you see in our sport and in all industries, like, who are the front lines, and they get the shine and they get the exposure, but then you realize that those aren't the people who are making this shit happen. Right. Miguel is one of the hardest working guys out here, and he's been behind every single Blading Cup as far as I know. He is such a solid guy. Like, I've known him for a few years now, not well, but I've known him and know him. He works so hard putting these events together. Right.
And from my perspective, he's like a spiritual guide in skating.
A lot of ways.
Like we talked about the council.
Mm-hmm.
I think he would be a good figure to have as a spiritual guider, like a non-businessy human.
Yeah.
The way that he talks about skating and the way that he, the feeling.
Yeah,
everything, like when he posts, he'll talk about the feeling, the feeling of skating. And I had a good conversation with him about like normalizing suck and being okay with sucking is very important, and it's a reason why we lose a lot of people is because they're not okay sucking.
Yeah, that's very true.
Because you're going to suck,
right?
You're gonna get good, and then you're gonna lose it and suck for a few days, and then you might have a good session and you're like, oh, I'm good again, and then you're gonna suck, and it's like a cycle of suck and good. And we lose a lot of people because it's hard for them to suck.
Right.
Their ego can't handle it, and they're like, oh, I'm done, I can't do this.
I would add it. I think it's okay to suck, but you've got to be doing some hammers if you suck. Like the falls section, I don't want to see you missing a soul grind, right? I want to see you hitting your nuts on like a kinked rail, Like that's okay. Like you did that. Like that's almost as good as landing it.
Right.
But if, it takes you 10 tries to do a ledge, like nobody's sharing that to their story.
Right.
Some of us are, but like...
That's a problem with Instagram and the content is it makes skating look so easy.
Oh, totally.
And it can be frustrating when you're watching this. You're like, okay, why isn't it easy for me?
Right.
And it fucks up your expectations.
Right.
But what people don't realize is, of course, people are just putting the highlights of what they're doing on the internet.
Yeah.
But just from like an experiential standpoint, like it's so important to be able to like put your skates on and humble yourself and just start small. Start where you're at.
Yeah.
And not get frustrated with yourself. Trust the process. Like the soul grinds will eventually lead to more things, and maybe they won't, but like just enjoying the basics. And I think Miguel promotes that.
I agree.
That concept.
Yeah,
of
he always
like, just go do soul grinds.
Yeah, he was I might be mistaking him with somebody else, but if I remember correctly, he was a big part of the Woodward West group, helping teach people how to skate out there. And that like mentality that he brings, where it's a very, there is a progression and everybody's on their own path, and you can be wherever you are on that path and still have a great time and still be included as a rollerblader. Right. You don't have to fit this bar to be accepted. You need to put skates on to be accepted, you know?
Exactly. Exactly.
That's all that you need to do.
Right.
And if you got skates on, you're okay in my book. And he's a great guy.
Yeah. And you got to be okay in your own book. That it's so important to you know, not get down on yourself. I mean, like that, and I talked to you a little bit about this. I am competing in the pro division.
Oh yeah.
Which I think is causing me to break out in hives.
Yeah. I
have like a crazy rash going on currently.
I've seen it. Yeah.
I never get rashes.
Yeah.
Lawrence.
I mean,
my track record of rashes is like 100%. Like I'm dialed with rashes.
Typically, yeah.
Currently, I am not dialed with my rash situation.
It's pretty obscene.
We are currently washing all of my clothes to rule out like a detergent issue potentially.
Yep. We'll be going to the Target later to buy some Benadryl, potentially additional
maybe some creams.
Underwear.
I've consulted
to change the situation a little bit. I have t-shirts you can humans. Yeah. It's not good, Todd.
You can't be dope and dialed when you have a rash.
No.
Like it's killing my buzz a little bit, and I wish it wasn't there. I was also like starting to feel sick. I have to admit, the day before I left, so I arrived yesterday, and the day before I was gonna leave, I was feeling really shitty, like under the weather, and I was like, should I just cancel this? Right. Like, what am I doing?
Right. You don't want to travel if you're sick.
You don't want to travel when you're sick, and you don't want to like go to Blading Cup and like fucking compete in the pro division when you're really not that good in the first place, and then you're like sick as well,
right?
And you've got a rash,
right?
The cards are stacked against me.
It's I don't blame you for getting hives, but
do you think it's the excitement? Could it be that?
I don't know if I'm not a doctor. I don't know if put that on record. I don't know if they're related, but I would say that your body is reacting to a lot of different stimulants that might be causing a rapid succession of this hive rash thing. So it might not have happened with the detergent change a few months ago, but now that things are peaked, maybe you're more sensitive, and that's what's causing it.
That's true. Yeah, a combination of all those things.
But you got here.
Right.
You look great.
Oh, thank you.
We had a really great time yesterday. Got to meet a lot of heroes, I guess. OGs, I don't know how you would say it.
We had a fantastic day yesterday.
I hope that the stress anxiety level is lower now that you know that everybody is here to have a good time.
Right. The vibes are really great. Right. The vibes are great. Everyone's been extremely friendly, and meeting all these people has been like incredible. You know, like meeting I met B Love last night. Yeah. And I met Dave Payne and Pat Parnell, Chris Edwards, Miguel. We already talked about Scott Crawford and
legends.
It's overwhelming though, meeting so many people all at once, because you just have a lot of like surfacey kind of conversations with a lot of different people.
Right.
And my character, I can't help but be like open and vulnerable with what I'm going through.
Right, sure.
So I think it may have been difficult for some people to get on that vibe with me.
Yeah, I feel that.
So I had some like awkward conversations where people just wanted to bro, but I was like, dude, like I've got a rash and I'm kind of overwhelmed with this, and they're like,
Yeah.
Whatever, bro. Like, what are you talking about?
Do you need a drink?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not, like, it's really good that I don't drink anymore.
Sure.
Because I probably would have numbed out all that discomfort.
For sure.
With a lot of alcohol.
Which is why it's there. And I do still drink. I would say I drink less than I did, but I love having a little drink to get the edge off. I'll still have a drink before I do our podcast with Ben or when I do a gear talk, because I find that, especially for me, trying to get, and a lot of this is solo. It's not like I'm in front of people trying to have conversations with them. I'm trying to think of the words, and I respond to the comments in Gear Talk or whatever, but I'm trying to get the words out and have them flow, and I find that a little bit of alcohol helps me get to that level, that numbness maybe that you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I see it as a tool,
right,
versus anything else. But again, I can control that tool.
Yeah, there are people that can use enough and not go overboard with it.
Exactly it.
For me, when I have a little bit of alcohol, it makes me want more alcohol.
Yeah. Totally.
I was never the guy that could have a drink.
Right.
I don't crave a drink. I crave 12 drinks. I want 12.
Yeah, that's right.
I used to do podcasts with, honestly, I wish I could find pictures. Like when I did the Chris Haffey podcast back in the day, my table had about 6 different alcoholic beverages
Holy shit.
on it.
Are they all the same?
Coffee and water.
Oh, man. So
like
you're just
beer.
Adjusting as you go.
I'm just like caffeinating, alcohol.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah, it wasn't healthy, obviously.
No.
And it didn't lead to a good product. You
No.
know? I mean, maybe sometimes it was humorous, but in general, you're numbing out. You want that discomfort, although uncomfortable.
Right.
Leads to good things if you use it right. Like that discomfort is actually a tool.
Yes, if you can harness it, right?
Yeah, if you don't let it destroy you.
That's exactly it.
Yeah,
I get that. I listened to my Gear Talks when I always did Dry January. My wife and I we like to check ourselves on things, and we
it's
do
good
those,
to take breaks.
Yeah, we do those 30-day trials. So I did 30 days of vegetarianism. She's fairly gluten-free. My youngest daughter is gluten-free for allergy issues, and dairy-free. But we do like 30 days of this, 30 days of that. And I did a 30-day no alcohol, and the Gear Talk episode during that 30 days sucked.
Really?
It was just really hard to get into my groove. And it typically, if you haven't seen the show, it's a thing that I do on YouTube where I talk about different skates and break down the geeky side of rollerblading. We talk about axles and frame mounts and different bearing types and wheel profiles, things that nobody ever cared about until I started getting interested in it, and then realized everybody cares about it, but they just didn't know it.
Right. It is a delightful watch. I do watch them. Yeah, they're fun.
It's not for everyone, but that's the beauty of the internet, right? You can make a podcast about weird bearing durometers or wheel durometers, and people might like it. Like, you'll find a market.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, the topic is very dry, and it takes me a while to ramp up. With podcasts, it takes a good 15 minutes for you to start finding your groove.
Right.
Unfortunately, with YouTube, if I don't find my groove early, I lose people's interest, and it's only me. Like, I'm not playing off of anybody else.
Yeah.
So I do find that alcohol works. When I was dry, the show just stayed at that level, that awkwardness. I could not get past it. Like,
did you start to feel it internally?
Yeah. I was like, maybe I should pause and go get some bourbon real quick.
Right. That's never a good feeling when you start doing something and then you start to get in your head about like, oh, this is not going well.
This is not going well. I'm bombing here. Of course it didn't. So I'm my worst
sometimes
critic, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just in your head.
Yeah.
Like, nobody, the viewers don't even pick up on it.
They had no clue.
Yeah. Do you, when you do podcasts and you do the Gear Talks, do you ever experience a post, like, anxiety about it, where you're like, oh man, that was terrible. Like, what did I say? Yeah. What did we even talk about? Because I experienced that big time with podcasting.
Sure.
Where it'll go fine.
Right.
But following it, I just get in my head like, oh my, like, what did I just say?
Yeah.
Did I
really
reveal too much?
Yeah.
Like, was I just really boring in that? Mm-hmm. And that's my own issue, and that's probably why I don't do more podcasts, is just like I enjoy doing them.
Right.
But then it's the post like anxiety about
it
that's like,
I do get into that. We've done 100+ episodes, which I'm sure is paled to what you and Joey have put together, but it's enough to know that this is what I worry about and this is what I don't worry about. And I don't worry about content anymore. Yeah. I've come to the realization that it's out there. It's not something that I can control. Right. So it is what it is. However, I do re-listen to podcasts. So we edit our podcast, and I do show notes. And, when we talk about, the new them skates, I'll put a link to the new them skates in the show notes so that people can get to it. And our vision of the podcast was, we wanted a way that people could find what's going on and then research it in the future so really they can reference that stuff, right? Because it's hard to find things. It takes me a while to find the links to, Jason Marshall clip trying to do the leap of faith.
Right.
And it's like, where do you find that? You can't really search for that, but you need to know, it was in Transcend, and here's the video like time so we can stamp it, things like that.
That's so smart.
It's also for me, like, everything's searchable, so now if I need to reference something, I can say we talked about that, and I can go on the keyboard and find it and then send the link over. I edit the podcast. I don't edit Gear Talk because it's done live,
right?
And I watch Gear Talk back usually at double speed because I already know what I'm saying. I look at the comments, so we do a live chat so I can see what people are talking about, and that way I can kind of feel the vibe of the conversation. So when we release a new skate or talk about a new wheel or something like that, I can see if people are excited about it or not based on the comments. I also see a lot of questions that people might be asking. I do ask for questions during the show, but I can't see the questions in the, there's usually 100 or so people watching. I can't see the questions in the sea of comments, and I'm not going to scroll. My eyes suck anyway. And I don't do the show I wear glasses, but I don't do the show with glasses because I get reflections, and I don't want to set up the lighting in that way. But neither here nor there. I do review everything, and I came to the realization that anything that I say during Gear Talk is just out there. There's nothing I can do about it. So I stopped stressing about it.
Yeah.
However, to your question, I do have concerns after I do a Gear Talk that people are going to take things out of context that I might have said.
Right.
And that is why I watch it again, so that I have familiarity with what I said. Because when you're in the zone, the words start flowing.
Yeah.
And I know where I'm going to go. None of it is scripted. I usually have an outline in my head of what I want to talk about.
Like some general topics.
Exactly. Points I want to hit. And when I do a product review, like we just talked about the Omni V2, I have a written outline where I'm like, I want to talk about the new buckle. I want to talk about the new lacing, or the new, the feeling of the skate when you're lacing it up. And I have these bullet points that I go through and I list so that I don't screw it up, and I make sure that I hit things. Usually after a show, it's regret that I didn't get to this, and I'm like, I forgot to talk about the blah blah blah.
That always happens to me, where there'll be a topic that came up, and I'm like, why didn't I bring it here? Like, that's such an obvious place, and it's so interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
I could have added a little bit more flavor to that if I had talked about.
In retrospect, it's always so much easier.
Totally.
Right?
A good example is, I think I waited until the end of the show to talk about, and by the way, we're going to be out in Blading Cup, and we'll have all of the skates for you to try on if you want to see them and feel them in your hand.
Yeah.
And it's like, that could have been useful information at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because most people aren't going to watch a 2-hour episode on YouTube of a guy talking about durometer of wheels. Right?
They could have just heard that at the beginning, and they're like, okay, I can skip this. I'll just
skip. I'll just see you on Friday. Exactly.
Yeah. And I imagine that being like obviously like you own all these companies and stuff, sure. there's even more concerns about, you know, being the ambassador for those brands and everything.
Yeah.
I don't even have that, so yeah. And that's something actually I wanted to talk to you about, is like being like you own a skate company, and you create this product, you design it, and then the factory creates it, which the process of that is kind of out of your hands, and then obviously you ship it out to customers, and then you get all this feedback. What is it like is there a lot of anxiety dealing with like customers not being satisfied, or little things that didn't go right in production? Because in my mind that would drive me fucking bonkers.
It's the worst, honestly. It's absolutely the worst. So after bringing back 50/50 in 2018, I've built, I think we're at 5 or 6 frame molds, 3 wheel molds, and a skate, which is sole plates, cuffs, shock absorbers, the shell, the liner. Like, there's a lot of new products that we've introduced that isn't just taking a wheel and putting a new graphic on it, like actual new products that we've created. The first new product was the compass frames, and that was I guess technically the first new product was the 58mm wheel that we made, the face profile in the 58mm that we tested. And that was the first investment that I made into not just rebuilding or reproducing things that had existed already, but in creating a new product altogether. And it's always a risk. Like, it's not a proven thing when you're creating a new product. And with the wheels, you know, the goal was we wanted to make something that was unique on the market. I had never skated face profile. You know, when I stopped rollerblading, it was like 2005, and I think face kind of started around that time. And Tom Heiser and the team over at K2 came up with this really innovative style of wheel profile that was a flat profile, but it also had a really bullety style edge, which in my estimation was going to be really good to prevent wheel bite. So I was watching what you and Joey were doing with slides and stuff, and it was like, how are they possibly sliding sideways on wheels? And it was because you try to do that on an aggressive setup, and you'll just kind of stop. You know, it's really hard to do, or you'll end up getting flat spots. And I made the realization, and I'm sure I'm not the first to do this, obviously, because Tom did it with a wheel, but I made the realization that flat spots are not a indication of bad wheel quality. Flat spots are an indication of you trying to put the wheel in a position that the wheel isn't ready to go in. It's holding up. Like, if it were bad wheels, it would have chunked off, right? It would have said pop, and we've all seen it crumbled with bad wheels, right? They crumble out, or there's this weird, like, it's not a clean line where it gets broken. It's this chunk, kind of like a like feta, where it just kind of pops off the thing. That's not a flat spot. A flat spot is when it's a completely flat thing. And I realized that the flat spot is because you're doing a slide, whether it's purposeful or not, and the wheel wants to fit that profile, but it doesn't. So the face profile is a flat spot all the way around. Like, good luck flat spotting a face profile. Real, right?
No, that makes sense.
And then there's a flat profile. Totally genius. I didn't come up with the design. Tom Heiser did. I just created a new mold that covered that. But that was a very expensive investment into a theory that I had no way of testing. And I was like, maybe they'll work. I don't know. Like, people are raving about the old face profile wheels, but is it because the urethane was so good? It had a really big core. It had an 85A durometer urethane, and it was this formula that, you know, rumors were, legend has it, that they worked with their chemists to figure out what Cosmo was using. So their urethane was really, really good. I don't know any of this information. I'd love to talk with Tom about it someday. But is it the urethane that was good, or is it the profile that was good? So I invested thousands of dollars into a profile on a whim.
Yeah.
With just my theory that, oh yeah, this will be good.
It's a leap of faith.
It was
really.
Totally a leap of faith. And
you think it'll work, but then you gotta put it out and let people try it, and then just take their feedback.
And that was it, yeah. So it was me putting it out there and trying it. And I had this, how do you say it? So it's common knowledge that the hardness of the wheel is what dictates wheel bite. And that is not the case. Hardness is one of the factors, but profile has more to do with whether you bite than hardness.
Totally.
And that was a hard thing to argue because people had never experimented with profiles in that way. Not purposefully experimented, right? But I wanted to go down that route.
Yeah. So have we debunked the theory that harder wheels slide better?
We have.
Yeah.
We as a community have not. I'm sure there are people out there
who believe that.
I'll say that if you ride a 95A wheel in the middle, you're going to slide all over the place. I don't know that that's the right answer to stopping wheel bite. I think there are other ways of going about stopping wheel bite that are better. I've had wheel bite in urethane anti-rocker wheels before.
Yeah.
And that's due to, in my estimation, a profile for the anti-rocker wheel that didn't fit properly with the groove of the frame.
Right.
If you just jump on, you're going to stick, and some of those anti-rocker wheels are flat on the bottom, and then they're just a 45-degree angle. If you hit that edge, it's just going to stop.
Right. To me, it has more to do with wheel shape and size, and then shape of the groove.
Right.
More so than the hardness.
Right.
Like I feel like a hard wheel will stick just as much as a soft wheel
if you do it wrong. Yeah. And to throw even more fuel to this fire, our first 58 millimeter wheels were 85A.
Soft,
which is very soft, softer than any of the wheels that you make with mushroom blading. All of your wheels are 87.
Yeah.
And you make.
I think the original face were 85.
They were 85. So that was our theory. Like, let's do as close as we can, because I want to see what this was all about. Like, is it the urethane? Is it the profile? Is it, like, what is it? Why were these face wheels so popular?
Yeah.
Or they weren't that popular, but legendary, I think. And I had to replicate it as close as I could to see. And it was scary. And I put it out there, and people were wearing down the wheels super fast, because obviously they were wearing down the wheels,
soft,
skating them 85A anti-rocker on a face profile.
Right.
I didn't know well enough to tell people to not do that, right?
Yeah.
That's a thing that I learned from this development.
Right, and that's the thing with producing these products is, like, you don't know until you know. So it's almost like you need to do a first run of anything, put it out to market, and then get the feedback, and then know what to revise. But there's no way to skip that initial leap of faith.
No.
So with a skate, there's so much more complexity, because you're dealing with all these multiple parts that are working together, and you've made decisions on hardnesses of plastics for each of the components and the shapes and everything. And obviously you test, you make beta versions.
Sure.
But the production version is always a little bit different.
Right.
So that has to kind of drive you crazy. And I know with like V1, I'm on the V1 right now, and it works really well for me. I like it a lot.
Right.
But there are some clear issues with it.
Yes.
Like particularly the warping of the sole.
Yeah.
Which was a production issue.
Right.
Obviously, you didn't design a warped sole.
Right.
And you found out that, if you put the sole plate on the boot too quickly after it's been produced and it's still warm.
Yes.
Then it's gonna warp the plastic a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's something that you would only know if you went through the process of V1.
Yeah.
And then you could inform the factory of that issue, right?
Exactly. The factory, I try to put it this way. This isn't just our first skate. It's the first time the factory's ever made the Omni. And they're learning as much as we are how to make the skates to the quality and the design that we want. You know, it is in their best interest to make the best skates possible.
Yeah.
Because they want me to sell skates so that I buy more skates. It's all about money, right?
Yeah.
They're a business. They don't care about how well the skates work for True Top Acid.
Right.
They want you to
sell more units.
Exactly.
So they can make more units.
Exactly. Yep. It's strictly numbers for them.
Yep.
When we were developing the Omni, there were a lot of perfect conditions that we encountered that led us to a false sense of security with the choices that we made. The number one was that I was testing the first skate. We are a small company and we had enough money to create one size. The size that we created happened to be my size. And that was great for me because I was selling a skate for people like me. In my head, it was a all-purpose skate that could do aggressive, could do big wheels, would work for the level of skating that I'm at. And I'm in no way a great skater, but if you look at the spectrum of abilities, like we were talking with Miguel, there are people who suck and suck less, and then you get up to people who suck very little. There's that suck spectrum, right? My market is for the Back to Blading YouTube channel. That's what I know, and I am like in the middle of the suck spectrum, right? That's the big market, and that's what I wanted to make a skate for. It is a skate for the way that I like to skate, and it's always been marketed as a skate for the way that I like to skate. I was the perfect person to test V1, but the conditions weren't indicative of what V1 was going to be like, and that's something that was really interesting to discover. First of all, I am a aggressive skater with a hockey background who likes a stiff skate. That's not what most aggressive skaters expect. Most aggressive skaters expect a more flexible skate. They want something that when they put their foot in there, they might not have a rigid support. They might not tighten their laces tight. They might not ever consider, should this have a 45-degree strap or a ratchet buckle or something like that. They want something comfortable, and comfort is the main thing, because they're just going to be jumping on a ledge. They're just going to be skating around a park, doing a little bit of transition, and it's a lot of lifestyle, right? People put on their skates and they hang out at the skate park for hours. I'm very different. I go out to the skate park and I have a goal, like my 3 goals famously, right? And I do my stuff. It takes me an hour and a half, and I go. Like, I don't hang out skate all day.
Yeah.
Because I just don't have the time. I think a lot of people are like that, but that, again, led me to a false sense of confidence that this was going to work really well. One of the other interesting factors was that I was doing the testing in summer in North Carolina, and it gets very hot in North Carolina.
Right.
The plastic that we used for V1 is usually used in ski boots. So it is a very similar plastic to what you would find in a ski boot, which is a winter sport and is a more supportive boot than what you would get in an aggressive skate.
Yeah.
I was skating it in summer and still had enough flex to be able to get boot down on kind grinds on the ledge. At 47 I was when I was doing testing. And I'm not a great skater, I'm on that spectrum. And if my reasoning is, if I'm able to do it, if I'm able to get boot down on royales, boot down on kind grinds, then it should be easy enough for other people to get boot down on kind grinds.
Right.
It's not about whether you can, it's about what the expectation is of the material. And the fact that I'm able to do it, same as Nick Lomax able to do, Savannahs on 3x110, That's not what it's for.
Yeah.
So it should be an aggressive skate. And what we made with V1 was an all-purpose skate, and I take full responsibility for that. The team, as soon as they got their skates, were the first to sound the alarm, and they were like, hey, these are stiffer than we were expecting, you know, because most of them were coming from thems, or they're coming from razors, or they were coming from whatever.
Right.
So coming from a different skate, a traditionally aggressive feeling skate, putting the Omni on for the first time was a shock. And, you know, I think we had a lot of motivation to make it work. I think the design was solid, but testing materials takes time, and we didn't have the luxury of time, right? In order for us to make this project happen, it had to keep going. The trains had left the station. We had to keep going. So
yeah,
we made Omni V1 work as well as it could. But there were definitely sleepless nights because I knew that this was going to be too stiff for some people.
Right.
There are a lot of people out there who love it.
Yeah.
But it's not the skate for everyone as we had hoped. After that first couple sessions, we started testing materials for V2. So we've been working on our new material for a long time. I think the first samples that we actually got in the new material, they were before Winter Clash. So Winter Clash is end of January. I know that I had Yandril's Pro Skate in hand beginning of January, which was his colorway. We decided the colorways, and we knew that we were going to do a brown skate, trying to dial in the brown, trying to get the right Pantone color, and work with the factory to get the color right, which is always difficult too, especially with brown because it can turn into poop really quick. But testing different materials was something that we started. It might have even been in December, and we started production in October, I think. So it was a long process to get to where we are now with V2. We went through 6 different iterations to find a material. 6 different iterations, yeah. And we ended up dropping the...
And what does that look like? Like every iteration, what are you ordering? Like one sample or like 10 samples?
Well, it's actually a more complicated question than you realized. What we order isn't necessarily what the factory provides. So this is where manufacturing is out of our control. We ask for a set spec, right? So we say we want the sole plates to use this material in this color. We want the boot to use this material in this color. We want the cuff to use this material in this color. And the factory says, got it. And then when we get the box, we don't know. We don't know what we're going to see. I famously remember getting our V2. I'm a software developer, so I use beta as an actual term. So beta is pre-release. Beta is not ready for public consumption. Beta 5 was our first test of a brand new material, which is a polyurethane-based formula versus what we were using before, which was the material that we used that's traditionally used in ski boots. So our first polyurethane-based material came, and if I remember correctly, we asked for this size, this many this size, this many this size. You know, we had 3 team skaters at the time, Stefan, Yandi, and Brian, and they were small, and medium. We said, okay, so we need 2 smalls, 1 medium, 1 large for me, and 1 extra large so that we can test it. And they sent us a medium and an extra large, I think. And it was like, come on, guys. Like, I was very specific with the ones that we need. Like, we need our team to be able to test the things. Like, they can't test a different size.
Yeah.
Like,
that's got to be so frustrating.
And you don't know until you get the box. And you can even confirm with them on emails that, oh, yeah, this is coming. And they're like, absolutely, this is coming.
Oh, God.
And it's like, but it didn't.
Oh, that's frustrating. Especially when you're, like, waiting, what?
Yeah.
Like, how long?
A month from an email. And that was pre-summer. So remember, this factory isn't the Omni factory. This is a skate factory.
Yeah.
So summer is the busiest time of year. there have been multiple skate brands that came out. I think they all use similar factories.
Yeah.
Those new skate brands are also using the same factory. So when we're trying to get injection molding done, we're just a number in line.
Right.
And we're not making 1,000 pair of skates. We're making 2 pair of skates.
Yeah.
Because we need to sample. So which one are they going to prioritize?
Yeah.
Right. Add to that, we learned early on. So we had some, I would say these are beta 5 samples. We had some very strange material issues. There's a thing called peeling that happens with polyurethane, that if you don't have the conditions right in the mold, whether they're heated up properly or whether there's a release agent applied properly in the mold, when the plastic gets injected into the mold, it can delaminate. So it separates, similar to like if you had a shoe or a helmet and you put your stickers on.
Yeah.
That peeling of a sticker, you can see it comes off a little bit. That is what happened to some of our samples. And here I am freaking the F out that, hey, like, we're seeing some weird activity with this. Was this material wrong? Like, we've never worked with this material before. Is this expected in production? And they were like, oh, no, it's not going to happen in production, but we can't give you production quality samples until we get into production. And it's like, well, so how do I know that it's going to be okay from production?
Right.
Like, you're giving me this stuff for my team to test, and they're having issues. I can't tell them that, oh, don't worry about it, it won't happen in production, because they're going to call me on my shit.
Yeah.
Like, they're putting their name out there, too. Like, they're vouching for this skate as this is a good skate. They need to have confidence that it's going to be a good skate. Totally. I can't do that because I don't have that confidence.
Yeah. Or before you go to production, you want to be 100% confident that you're going to get a certain product.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so to answer your question, it's fucking stressful.
Horrible. Yeah.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
Our V1 problem, in a nutshell, was that we were just starting out. We didn't have access to all of the shell sizes to get a big enough sample size to get feedback from our customers to know what problems there were with V2 and how to address them. V2, we have that sample size. We have 1,000 skates in the market, 1,000 plus, that customers are very good. The beauty of all of this, I'll come back to it, but the beauty of all of this is that I feel that rollerblading wants us to succeed.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't love me, maybe they don't love the branding, maybe they don't love the skates, but they want to see more options in the market. They want to see somebody who, and I hope that this comes across right, but who is genuinely passionate about making rollerblading stronger and wants to contribute to rollerblading. They want to support me and the team and Standard.
And I think if the people that care about rollerblading, they want all the products to be as good as those products can be.
Yes.
Even if it's not for them.
That's exactly
They want the person that chooses that, they want it to be as good for that person.
Yeah. And that's why I had no shortage of feedback for V1. People were who are traditionally on other skates, fully supported, would never skate our skates in real life, were buying the skates because they just wanted to support me. That meant the world to me. I could not have been more thankful to the support that, and I get emotional about this, but it's like, it was a lot of money. It's a lot of time. It's 3 years of my life that we've been spending on this skate. It could have been a flaming disaster. The fact that people came out of the woodworks to support us on V1 so that we could get over that initial launch, we wouldn't be able to do it without them. But it didn't work for everybody, and they were great about giving us feedback. So my job now as a company owner is to take that feedback that they've provided and do something about it. It can't just be a tip box, or what do they call it? Like a feedback box that you put in the front of an office or whatever, that you fold up the anonymous paper and you put it in the box, and then someday it's going to get read and put into something. No, like I got to do something about it.
That is those are the results of your experiment, right? The experiment of putting out a skate is what do the people think, or what is their experience when they try it, when they skate it. Yeah. And it's good. Obviously, it's good to get that feedback. Yes. But it's also scary, and it's also like it keeps you up at night if
it does.
People aren't enjoying it, or they're like, I don't like this, or this is broken, or this is hurting my foot.
Knowingly shipping a product that I know won't fit everybody sucks. I've never had that experience, because I knew that with every frame that I produced, every wheel that I produced, every t-shirt that I produced, they all fit.
Single component.
It might not have been for you,
simple,
but it fit. Right.
Skate up, like feet just vary so much.
So hard. And I never knew how difficult this would be.
Like foot shape, right. And then like expectations of what a skate should feel like, how stiff it should be. Everyone has a various expectation.
Right.
Me personally, I'm used to skating like stiffer big wheel skates.
Sure.
And I don't mind a stiffer skate.
Right.
For aggressive.
Right.
I like it.
Yeah.
I never found V1 to be too stiff.
Right.
But I guess I'm a weird kind of case.
And I wouldn't throw percentages out there that mean anything, but there were a large percentage, I would say 30, again, percentage that doesn't even matter, but I hear from people who love V1, and it fits their feet perfectly, and they love the stiffness, and after they break it in, it works great. Additionally, skating in summer during hot weather, it really feels like a different skate than if you were skating in winter.
Another variable,
right,
that you're throwing into the mix. Temperature, affects plastics so much.
Totally. Yeah. Those are inputs that I did not account for, and it's been a very humbling experience as somebody who prides himself in creating products that are good for everyone, to learn that the assumptions that I made during development were completely wrong. And that's something that we've addressed in V2. Like, we've taken all of that feedback and made countless improvements to V2 to make everything better. Like, I said in V1 announcement that this is the worst skate that we'll ever make, and it is. Like, it's only going to get better in every release that we have. We have this cycle now that we've established, that we release, we get feedback, we triage the feedback and determine what's valid and what isn't. Like, fit issues always number one. Like, I want to make sure everybody can get their feet in the skates, but
that's key.
When it comes to grooves, when it comes to performance, when it comes to width of sole plates, get a lot of people asking about a deeper negative groove, and I'm like, I don't even know what that means, but okay. Like, or little things like that, where it's, maybe a personal preference. And every feedback is worth something. It's whether that's the direction of the company that we want to go.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll ever stop improving. Like, I feel like every release we will take in, it will be less dramatic.
Yeah.
But every release will take in feedback. We have a list. We have a roadmap. I was sharing a bit with you this morning, all the way up to V7. Of what we would like to release with each thing, and each of those has a foundational update. Whether it's new components, new materials, new, like, won't get into everything, but we have a lot of ideas that we want to see come to life, and it's a chess game. It's going to take some moves to get to that point. V2 is just proof that we're actually listening and making those moves. Like, we're not just going to ship the same skate in a different colorway.
That's really exciting. Yeah, that's extremely exciting. And I think that's what's wrong with a lot of companies, is they rest on their laurels, and they just tweak the aesthetic,
right,
and it's so important to constantly improve based on the feedback. Yeah. And the V2, I tried it on yesterday. I didn't get to roll around in it. I just put the boot on my foot, and it the plastic feels like it's going to adapt to people's foot a lot better than the V1.
Great.
That was one thing with V1. When you're lacing, it doesn't feel as suctiony as you would want it to feel. Luckily, the shape of the boot marries pretty well with my foot. I've got a wider foot, and I didn't have any issues. But I can feel like with V2, it suctions. You can feel when you're lacing, you feel that like closure up top. Right. So I feel like it'll work for more people. Yeah. And God, it's just really comfortable. Yeah. Yeah. It's just like
thanks for that.
Yeah.
We've worked really hard on it. I don't want this to turn into a standard podcast. I'll say this. It's been a long road getting to where we are now. I'm really cautiously optimistic that V2 will solve the problems for most people. We're doing everything we can to help upgrade people, and we're doing open houses and events to get as many feet and skates as possible. I think the more information that we can get on how they fit, the better. And we're taking like your feedback with how the lacing system works, being able to tighten up your laces and it feels like it's sucking your foot in. That was what I had in summer. That was the feeling that I had, that I fell in love with.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like even the V1 on a hot day, it's gonna suction more.
Yes,
you're gonna get that suction.
That's exactly what I had. Yeah, and I remember posting a clip on my Instagram. I think it was Back to Blading Instagram before Standard was officially testing, like in public, of the look down and of me lacing up. It was June. It was midday, and it was like at a hot ass skate park with no shade. And you lace that up because the design was inspired around the Fifth Element. So the Fifth Element has that. It uses a dual injection, so it has a different material with a different hardness in the lacing area. We just used a thinner area, so when you tighten the laces, it should hug your feet. It should, and not just inspired by the Fifth Element, but the original 908, which was inspired by the Bauer Civility. They had those fingers, that wrapped around and hugged your feet. I loved that idea. I thought it was a brilliant idea. The way Bauer did it aesthetically isn't very pleasing. It looks like these little fingers that come up and grab your foot.
So it's functional.
It's very functional though, right? So I could see why that's not a popular style, but I love the concept of it. And I think that the Fifth Element did a really good job at it. There's a Flying Eagle skate that has a very similar thing with a dual injection lacing area. I love, and I wanted to replicate that without having the expense of a dual injection, because it's an additional mold, it's additional injection, like you have to inject a second time, and I'm like, too complicated, can we just do it with a thin plastic? And we did, but under optimal circumstances in the middle of summer in North Carolina, it works. Like to be able to replicate that in a hotel room in Santa Ana in November, end of October, with a non-broken in skate that hasn't been used before is reassuring to me. That we've made some progress.
Yeah, it's exciting. Yeah, I feel like I should put my clothes in the dryer.
Yes, I was thinking that too. It would be a good time to take a break and do that.
Let's do that.
We're recording.
Nice. I'm really excited.
I said before, I'll say it again, I'm thrilled that you're able to make this trip. It was on my wish list for you to come down, and I didn't think that it would ever happen. Because it's a trip for you. It's a journey. Not only being from Canada, but like you've got a life, you've got kids, you've got family. Like it's an obligation to get down here. Like I know as well as as you do. It's hard to leave that routine that you've developed at home. Thankfully, we both have amazing wives that that hold down the fort when we're not there. But
Yeah, thank you very much to my wife. Oh my God. She's currently at home dealing with a sick child. So I feel kind of guilty about that, but...
I mean, yes, it sucks.
It sucks, yeah.
Yes, if you knew that it was going to happen, I'm sure you would have changed plans, but this is...
But I'm so stoked to be here. I'm so excited. We're going to go meet. We're going to pick up the standard team today.
Yep.
I'm so excited to meet Yandriel and Stefan and Brian and Luke.
Yep.
Like, Yandriel is someone that, like, I've been watching for years, obviously. Mm-hmm. And such a interesting personality. Like, not even talking about his skating.
Yes.
Like, in our house, we commonly refer to him as High Pants Guy.
Yes.
That's how my wife knows him.
That's good. Yeah.
Very unique style of pant that he wears.
As an expert, I don't know if you've definitely earned the name. I don't know if you've asked for the name, but as you and Joey are pretty much the experts at pants in our community, or at least you're advisors. I will be very interested to hear how the conversation goes between you and Yandi.
I'm excited to see the pants in person and really understand the combination of shapes,
right,
and the belt situation,
yes,
and where that sits. I'm excited to talk to him about. I can see the function of it. Mm-hmm. Like bringing the crotch area higher has benefits in terms of movement, allowing certain movement. The low crotch can be limiting with certain fabrics.
I mean,
obviously,
you look at the Mike Johnsons, the Frankie Moraleses. They get it done with the low crotch.
Yeah, but it has to be. Yeah, a low crotch is okay with a certain fabric. It's got to be a stretchy, pliable fabric. If it's a stiff plastic and a low crotch, that's going to prevent spreading. Mind you, not a lot of rollerbladers utilize that split movement in their skating.
Right.
The split movement that I'm referring to
is
almost like faux pas in skating.
Yeah, we're very closed hip.
Yeah.
Yes, less mizus. Yandi doesn't do a lot of mizus. He does his...
It's interesting because he's pretty closed.
Yeah, he's closed for that amount of accessibility.
Yeah.
Sweatpants, definitely. I was thinking how do they get the low pants but still have mobility, and it's sweatpants. That's why sweatpants were so popular.
It's interesting, like, and I'm excited to talk to Yandriel about this, but it's interesting, like, he tucks in the shirt as well. Sometimes.
That's
not always.
That's always a good, gotta ask him why.
Yeah, because typically when I'm dressing for skating, something that I consider is I want to feel short. I want clothes that make me feel low and compact, which is why I prefer like a wide leg and like a looser shirt to make me feel wider and shorter. So the tuck and the high pant would make you feel taller. Is he a shorter guy?
He's a shorter guy. Okay. He wears a small skate, size 8, size 9,
8,
size 7. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
The best skaters are always, I guess Farmer's an example, but typically
very few
the small humans have an advantage.
Yeah. The Shimas, the Aragons, they were all shorter skaters. Frankie.
Small humans.
Yeah. I think there's a lot to do with the lower center of gravity, a little bit more stability maybe. And
being light.
Lightness has a lot to do with it too,
on the urethane.
You would think you couldn't jump as high, but I mean, Luke jumps really high.
Yeah.
Frankie obviously would jump really high. And they're not tall by any stretch. Luke and Brian are fairly tall. Yandi is a little shorter, I believe.
So it's so interesting seeing these people in person.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. Yeah. Chris, I tripped out on Chris Edwards.
Oh, yeah.
Yesterday. Touching Chris was impressive. he is jacked.
Yeah, man.
Like jacked.
Yeah.
I wonder, is he on steroids?
I wouldn't know. I
wouldn't be surprised if he was, because he's in his 50s.
Yes. Probably pushing it, right. I think he's younger than Scott Crawford, and I think Crawford is a year older than I am, and I am 48. So Chris might be our age,
early
if
50s.
Not
I
right
think
around
he's
that
early
bucket.
50s.
Yeah, he might be.
Yeah, he wouldn't give me a straight answer about his age.
Well,
he'll just joke and say he's 26.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's extremely his transformation is so impressive.
Wild, isn't it?
Yeah, because 10 years ago he was overweight,
right,
and he said he couldn't skate for like 2 years.
Yeah.
And to see the physical condition he's in now is extremely inspiring. Like he's jacked. And the thing that's so awesome about it is Chris Edwards is the only person that can be Chris Edwards on skates. Like, he's the only person that can skate like Chris Edwards.
Right.
And when he's incapable of doing that, then that dies. Then there's no physical replication of a Chris Edwards on skates. It's sad. It's a death of a certain physical possibility.
It is
that exists. So watching Airborne last night and seeing the things that Chris Edwards did in that movie, and knowing that human can still do that,
right,
today,
crazy, right,
is fucking very inspiring and very cool.
So this Airborne, this was the 31st anniversary of the release. I haven't seen Airborne in a long time.
I hadn't either. I hadn't watched it probably for about 30 years.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Since release. I'm sure I watched it when I got back into it within the last 5 years for me, but
I've seen clips.
Yeah, I've seen clips.
And I know Joey has used clips of it in certain videos.
Right. Yeah. And Chris we ended up talking with Chris a little bit before the show last night. I didn't go to the movie. Todd went to the movie, but when we stopped by them skates and met everybody and said, hey, Chris was there, and we were able to walk over to the theater and see, Chris doing a live stream at the theater, it's always just amazing to see Chris, but to see Chris in his element and then talking about Airborne, it's inspiring.
It was so cool to listen to his first-hand account of being 18.
Yes.
And filming that movie, and from his perspective, rollerblading was not a thing.
It wasn't. Yeah.
This was before the hoax, before
anything.
Before his tarmac CE. Yeah. Before any of that. And he felt like this was his chance to really make this a thing.
Right.
Through this movie.
You can see the effort that he put into it. The skating, I hate to use the word amplitude, but you can sense how hard he was skating in that.
Oh my god!
The mini ramp or the vert ramp section.
Whoa! And he hits a handrail,
which was wild in those days, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
And even the way, in the final scene, there's the devil's backbone.
Right.
The way that he skates down he's got something to prove.
Yes.
Wild. The way that he rollerbladed was so powerful.
Yeah.
And so, I try to put myself back in the shoes of 30 years ago, before I had seen all the shit in rollerblading that I've witnessed now. But back then, to see the way he was skating, it was inhuman.
Yeah,
it was superhero shit.
Yes,
superhero shit, and for kids to watch that and be like, I can do that, I can be that on rollerblades, would have been very inspiring. Oh my god.
I don't know. I was talking with Chris about this last night, and I think we were all part of the conversation. I don't know that modern skating captures that energy.
No.
I don't know that that's a knock on modern skating, but he definitely had in his mind when they were choreographing this edit or this section, he had in his mind, how do I make something that will be timeless, that will cross boundaries from people who know what I'm doing to people who don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
And how do I make these tricks look like bigger than life? The thing that always is the like the hallmark clip for me, aside from just seeing the first handrail, that was the first handrail that we ever saw when Jason Marshall and Nick Strang and my brother Andrew and I were watching these old skate videos. We probably saw Airborne before we saw the hoax, and seeing Chris do that handrail, which in hindsight is not the most impressive looking rail, it's not the most impressive stance, like it's not a great front side on a handrail, but it was groundbreaking. My highlight clip is when he's blasting through that little underground, like under the like a bridge or something, and he's blasting through, and he does this wall ride. You know the wall ride?
Yeah.
Where he goes up this quarter pipe that's on the wall. Like, there's no coping or anything, right?
Yeah.
Flies up. I mean, he must have gone 15 feet up, 12 feet. Like, it obviously camera tricks, right, to make it look bigger, but it looked big.
Yeah.
And flies up, does this big carve, and then goes down. It's not just a quarter pipe. He carves, and he goes down another ramp. That's like that's a crazy trick.
The power that he had.
How did he do that?
The power. I don't see people skating with the same power. People have control. People have style. But power.
Yeah.
And it is something that you don't see in modern skating.
No.
Obviously, you see people skate fast. You see people air big and things like that.
Right.
But there's a certain energy that Chris Edwards had in his skating that was like, this guy is just a superhuman. Like the power that
always
he had.
Charging.
And the way that he skated vert.
Seriously.
The way he used his arms.
Yeah.
And like...
Yeah.
Man, like it was extremely inspiring to watch that movie again.
Yeah.
And to try to appreciate how groundbreaking it would have been at the time.
Right.
It was really cool. Some of the actors were at the
nice
event last night. Like the two twins.
Cool.
That are in the movie. They were there.
That's awesome.
And Shane Mitchell,
McDermott.
Mitchell Goosen.
Yeah.
That was pretty crazy.
So good.
And Michael Palak was there. Obviously, Chris Edwards. And it was a really special night. It was... I'm really happy that I went.
I'm really glad you got to go. I wish I could have gone. I flew in yesterday as well, and I've gotten to the age where I know that I can't do everything that I want to do.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not living in the moment anymore. I have to calculate my weekend of things that I want to accomplish and make sure that I budget my energy and my time.
You got so many chips.
That's right. My flight left at 7 a.m. Eastern time from North Carolina yesterday morning. I was up at 4 a.m. Eastern time, which in the West Coast is 1 a.m. So I was up at 1 a.m.
Wow.
Yesterday, and the event started at 8, I believe. I was in bed at 8. I was asleep by 8:30. I could not stay awake. I was so tired. Travel days take a lot out of me to begin with.
Oh,
but the older that I get, the more difficult it is to keep up with the young kids like you.
The young bucks.
I do regret not being able to do those, but whenever I do events, I know why I'm out here, you know?
Right. You got a mission.
Yeah, right. I'm not out here for fun. And this might come across as kind of a dick move, but I know why I'm out here. I'm out here so that I can show what I've been working on. You know, we've paid a lot of money to get booths. We've paid a lot of money to fly the team out here so that they can be part of this event. And my role is to be at the booth and to make sure that the team gets picked up. You know, I'm team manager right now as well. Make sure the team gets picked up from the airports. We're driving to LAX to pick up Brian and Luke this afternoon, and then from LAX we're driving to Orange County to Santa Ana Airport to pick up Yandi, and then we're driving back to the hotel to drop them off, and then we're driving out for an industry meetup at the shop. And there's potentially other stuff that's happening tomorrow night. That my role is I need to make sure that I'm where I need to be with the right amount of energy and focus so that I can do the job that I'm tasked with. And my job today is I've got to be on my schedule. You know, love that we have an opportunity to do a podcast. It's, you know, as a fan of you and Joey, it's always great to be able to talk, you know, on the podcast, or have both of you on our podcast, but be able to do it in person it's a really special experience. So I'm thankful that we're able to do this. But after this, we've got things that we need to do. Like, we've got a checklist of things that we need to stop at. We need to pick people up. People are relying on us to be at places. Yeah. And if I stayed out late last night, today would be rough. Right. And I know that ahead of time. Yeah. Friday, Saturday, I'm at the booth all day. So we'll be there from 10 o'clock to set up until 5, 6 o'clock. That is a full day of work. And it's not like I can leave the booth. Right. Because at any minute, somebody will want to come up and say, hey, we are, in our little world, public figures. And I want to make sure that every person that comes to the booth gets 100%. Right. Like, they've come to Blading Cup. They've come, you know, to be part of this community. They've come to our booth to see me, to see the skates, to ask questions. I don't want to half-ass any of that. You know, they deserve 100% of me, and I'm gonna put myself in that mode, which means that I'm not going to be able to do the late night drinking that I would usually have done, or the late night events, or whatever, because that's not why I'm here. You know.
Right. I love that you're so focused. Obviously, you're a focused human. Look at the things that you've created. It's crazy. Yeah. It's absolutely crazy what you've accomplished. It's no surprise that you are focused and trying to be at your best.
Sure. But I think it goes further than that. Like, I think that it's me understanding why people want to support me, and what people expect out of it. You know, there's nothing worse than seeing somebody come to the booth. You know, I've worked probably a dozen booths now. Come to the booth and wanting to see something and it's not there. Or I get a lot of people coming up and saying, hey, you know, is Yandril going to be here or whatever? And they want to meet these skaters. Like, we have it's a very different level of expectations now than it was. Back in the old days, the skaters were living in the videos or in the magazines. You know, they were a daily bread skater, and you wouldn't have access to them. Nowadays, you have access to all these skaters. You know, they're in your Instagram, they're liking your reels. You have it's a symbiotic relationship, and you feel like you have, you know, a relationship with these people. They might not know you, but you as a skater, like, you want to go up. You feel like there's less barrier here. You want to go up and say, hi, you know, I am a big fan of yours. I love your work. I love your skating. I want to support. You know, I just wanted to say, hey, whatever. And that takes a lot out of you. You know, it's a great. I love doing these events. 100%. Every time I get an opportunity to do a booth, love flying the team out. I think you being out here is going to be huge. I think people are not expecting to see you out here. But you and Joey definitely epitomize that access level of celebrity. You know, I don't know of a better word for it, but like the two of you are so approachable because you've made 20 plus years of videos of just being yourselves, and I think that humility comes across very clearly, which is one of the things that I was so attracted to mushroom blading when I got back into it. And I hope that, I know that you will, but I hope that other skaters see that, pro skaters see that opportunity to connect with a community. You know, these events are about being part of something. It's not about showing your thing. It's not about the competition.
Right.
You know, we had in our history a track record of a event being a presentation. You know, it's a show. And you would go to an ASA event and you would see your heroes. I say heroes, it's a silly word, but you would see your heroes in a cage.
Right. Yeah.
Fenced off from everywhere else. Yeah.
Right. You have a clear definition of the fans and the players.
Yes. It is the circus. Yeah. And you go as a spectator and you watch them perform and they put on a show.
Right.
That is not the way that things are now.
Yeah.
And I love the transition of Blading Cup from, I don't know that Blading Cup was ever like that. It was always more approachable, but I love that there might be this year, I might be wrong. I love that there are no stands at Blading Cup. I love that there is no production of video at Blading Cup. It is 100 people surrounding the street course, watching people skate. As people finish their trick or their session, they end up in another place, and supporters go and just say, that was sick, or, you know, clap, or, you know, give them a high five or whatever. It is everybody coming out here, regardless of suck, and being part of this event. You know, everybody's competing on the same grounds. There are different brackets for different skill levels, right? But everybody's just out here having a good time. And I think having these amazing skaters out here who not only represent brands, but can also represent rollerblading and just show how fun it can be, how inclusive we can be. Those are what really, Blading Cup, and specifically Blading Cup, is an amazing event for that. And I always encourage people to come out to every event. Definitely come out to Blading Cup. We have an event in North Carolina called the Crowder Cup that's usually in April. Similar vibe. It is a festival of rollerblading. It is not an event where the competition, like, honestly, end of Blading Cup, I always vent about this with Ben on the podcast. I have no idea who won.
Yeah.
And finding the results of a Blading Cup are really difficult. You know, sometimes it's buried in a story somewhere, or you have to Google it and it's on some website. You know, like One Magazine posted the results somewhere, like completely unaffiliated. Maybe they're right. Maybe they're just making up their own thing.
Right. It's like, not a primary.
No.
You know,
that's not the focus of it. Yeah. And the more that we can accept that, and the more that we can move away from the street course being...
Wait, are you saying that when I win, like, people aren't even going to know that I won?
I'm saying that when you lose, we can post that you won, and nobody would know the difference.
Brilliant. I love it. Brilliant. Yes, fake news.
Hey. Is it fake news if the real news is never posted?
Right. Rod Kinney rolls in, wins Blading Cup.
Rod's got some, man. It would be so good if you posted that Rod Kinney won Blading Cup.
Yeah, we'll have to get a photo holding the... if we get access to the trophy, we'll definitely have to do a fake photo.
Oh my god!
Where Rod is holding it.
We need to get started on that.
I'll borrow some jewelry from someone.
I'm sure you could find that. I closing thoughts. I love Blading Cup. I want to do Blading Cup every time we do it. They just announced that there's going to be a Blading Cup in spring in Europe next year.
Oh, crazy.
It's going to be I don't have a lot of details, but it's going to be a collaboration event with Feast. So there might be potential for more spectators to come in because Feast draws in a different crowd, and potentially we can open up the Blading Cup festival, which
that's so interesting that those two worlds
overlap,
will merge because they're very separate. You know, you talk about the feast style comps and the Blading Cup style fonts.
Exactly.
Comps. It'll be interesting to see those merge.
It's the two eras of events in my eyes, where you've got the feast, which is that's
the yin and yang,
and then you've got the Blading Cup, which is the festival.
Yeah.
I have no association with Blading Cup. I don't have anything to do with it. I'm just an advocate for it, and anything that I said might be incorrect. But from what I've heard, it will be a event in collaboration with Feast in a similar area as Feast, but it will be a Blading Cup event. It won't be another competition. It will be more of a get-together celebration of rollerblading, which is what I'm all about. I think those are the most powerful events for competitors, for participants, as well as just the community in general.
Well, you're getting me really, really excited, and I really hope that my rash goes away. And I'm very excited.
So we're gonna go get some.
Ben has recommended Lamisil. Right. I'm gonna try some Lamisil, which is for jock itch.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, we'll try that. I did take a Benadryl.
That should help as well. Yeah.
And the good news is my back doesn't hurt.
Good. Okay.
So I'm feeling really good, minus a little bit of sickness remaining and a little bit of my itchiness in my rash, but
irritation, I bet, when you move.
I can't complain. Obviously, you come to these things like you want to be 100%. Like I had it in my head, I'm going to be like 100% dialed, and you know, in real life, it's very rare that you're 100% dialed.
Of course.
Yeah.
I think you are your worst critic. I think you will be absolutely fine when you get out there and skate. So you're skating Saturday.
Yes.
You should be skating a little bit Friday just to warm up, get used to the course.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I'd even like to maybe skate a little bit today.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Just to get the feel of wheels under my feet.
Yep. Yeah. We can definitely. So
see if the boys are into it.
Maybe I'm not sure what the schedule's like. I know that they're looking forward to skating with you. We're really pushing fun skating more than hammer skating, and I think your style.
Fuck that, Lawrence. Skating, drop kinks. Take me to drop kinks.
Well, if
I'm not here to fuck around.
If that's what you want, I'm sure we can accommodate. It's been really refreshing to have that shift in skating from drop kinks to more creative stuff that, you know, I think you and Joey really got a lot of shit for many years. Skating should be fun, and I think the more that you can do fun skating, the better. We can go, there's a few spots that we can go. I'm still injured, so I did not bring skates, and I'm not allowed to do any impactful skating for another month probably. But definitely we should bring our skates. We'll probably come back to the hotel. I'm trying to think out loud how long we have to get from the hotel, from LAX to Orange County to here. We'll probably be back at the hotel 4:30ish, so plenty of time to skate.
Cool.
We could find a park. There are plenty of good warm-up parks. There's a really great park in Santa Ana that I've enjoyed. I skated when I came out in 2018. I skated there with Jason Marshall, and soft wheels. It's a very slippery park. I think over the years, the urethane is a more skateboarding is huge down here in Southern California. It's more of a skateboarding park, but a lot of fun little lines, little grinds, nothing too challenging, but it might be a really good place for you to just get your feet again, get your handles again. What setup are you going to be on?
I'm going to be okay.
So what did you bring, and what are you going to be on?
This is an interesting topic, and I'm really glad you asked me, because the skates that I brought on paper seems like a mistake. It seems like what are you doing?
Right.
This is a terrible decision.
Okay.
So
I like where this is going.
I have the V1. Okay. I couldn't decide because I have a white and a black. Couldn't decide which one, so I brought one of each. So I've got my left is black, and my right is white. Boom.
Wait, when you told me that you brought one of each, I thought you brought a pair of each.
No, I brought one of each. So I'm skating one black and one white.
You are, okay.
Think Dominic Sagona.
Yeah.
Second regime.
Yep.
Section.
You need your baggy t-shirt
over
your one arm.
I might do that.
With a tank top underneath.
I should grab a tank top when I get new underwear.
I'll add it to my list.
Good call.
I mean,
fuck yeah. I'm getting a white beater.
If you're going full Dom, you gotta...
Fuck yeah.
What is it, Swaggy D? What was it?
No, legit, I'm getting one. Like, really, like, long, oversized.
Okay.
And the liners that I have are the original 909 Intuition liners from the first 909s that I bought.
Okay.
They're the tongue is warped, but they just seem to marry extremely well in the shell. I had been skating the premium liner, and as a joke, I threw these liners in.
Sure.
And I was just like, oh my god, these are just perfect.
I love
because
that.
With the premium, they felt okay, but there was always a little bit of shifting going on inside the boot. Like, they didn't fill it out perfectly.
Okay.
Not crazy bad, but just like a slight thing that bugged me. I tried these, and they just filled it out perfectly.
Wow.
Like the whole skate just felt more responsive to me. So I've got those liners in there, and I have jumpers.
Yep.
58, 87. They're the same wheels that I filmed the jumpers in the spring.
Oh,
so
wow.
Those wheels are extremely worn.
Worn, but broken in.
And honestly, they're a little bit rattly.
Okay.
Which bugs me a little bit, just because they're so old.
Right.
And I have Create Originals on, which, this setup, I just had flat rocker, a little bit rockered.
A little bit rockered.
Naturally from super worn in wheels.
Right.
So on paper, this is a terrible setup.
Right.
But I've had some amazing sessions in these, to the point where I just made the decision in my head, okay, this is what I'm bringing to Blading Cup, because these just feel amazing.
Dialed.
Obviously, I've had some inner conflict about this. My logic brain says, no, like, you should put some balanced 2 frames on. You should put your premiums in. Like, these are better on paper. But I had an emotional reaction to this setup where I just really enjoyed it. The lowness, the low ride height of the Creates, the length married perfectly in my brain. A little bit more length with the Creates, and something I appreciate about the Creates is the angles on the sidewalls.
Yes. So
I feel like I can do crossovers without catching plastic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a very unique setup. Most people probably wouldn't choose a Create Originals flat with 58s for an event where it's potentially going to be ledges and
like
angle iron. Yes.
But I am used to very gritty grinds.
Right.
And my thinking was that a lot of the grinds are going to be pretty perfect, like waxed and smooth.
You will not have a problem with wax.
So normally, like, I would skate wish frames, like in cam loops.
Right.
But my thinking was that, like, it might not even be necessary, just because, like, everything's going to be really waxed and smooth. That's what I'm anticipating. So I'm not really too concerned. The funny thing is, when I first tried Creates, I brought with me to the park a full other setup with, I think I had the standard stock frame, just because I didn't expect to like the Creates. I expected to put them on, try them out, and be like, fuck this, and put on my other setup. The funny thing was, I just had a great session in the Creates.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was so surprised. I texted Joey, I'm like, you are going to laugh.
Yeah.
Because he hated the Creates.
Yeah, he's had bad experiences.
And that's why those things sat in my closet for years.
Right.
I didn't even try them. because of his...
Joey has very strong opinions on product, and to his credit, he will keep trying them to try to sway his opinion because he listens to feedback, and he's like, okay, everybody loves this, maybe I'm wrong,
maybe I'm missing something.
Exactly. So he'll give it another shot. He's done that with our products and has just decided they're not for him. Fair. People love their creates. There's a reason why they are I would argue, the most popular aggressive frame for street skaters out there. Yeah. Wish frames are amazing, don't get me wrong. I love our products. Balance frames are amazing. But you can't beat a create for that street. I mean, both Brian and Luke skate creates. They have access to anything that I make.
Right.
You know, as soon as you start skating for balance stuff, I flow anything to anybody in the family. Like, you know, if you support any of my products, any of my brands, I'll give you anything that you want. And they choose to skate creates because they love them so much. There's some special sauce about that, and you might be right. It might be the angles, whether they were deliberately made that way, or whether it was just this just works and they tested it and it works. I don't know what it is. Yeah. I've never skated creates. I'm at that point where I hung up my review jersey. I am not doing reviews. I look at it more from an angles and geometry perspective, but I've never skated them as a flat setup. I'm wondering if someday I should, and see if I agree with your take on it or if I agree with Joey's take on it.
Right. And there's obviously a lot of variables. You know, when it comes to length of the frame, I think it really depends on like what you're used to and what you've previously been riding.
Right.
That kind of influences the way it feels. I would like to try it because I'm terrible with lengths, but I think the large create is 260 or
I think it's a little 264. Longer, yeah, a little longer than 260. I don't know the length.
Yeah,
I know that 260 is like the sweet spot for lengths for a medium shell. People are super excited about is it the FR Wish? Because it is 260, I believe.
Yeah.
People are very excited about that frame. First of all,
seems interesting.
Looks like an amazing frame.
Yeah.
Flat 60, no more mixing the sizes of the wheels. I love that.
Yeah.
That's
the problem with Wish.
The only knock against Wish is that sourcing the two wheels in the same color,
it's problematic. It's
a good
difficult
profile is hard.
You got to match profiles.
Yeah. So flat 60, perfect. But the 260 wheelbase is what people are raving about, and I think there's something to that.
Yeah.
I don't know the lengths of the creates. I think you might be right with the 264. I know that our frames are 270 or 250, so we don't have anything in that middle ground.
Yeah.
Especially with a flat setup and a size, medium size 42 foot. 260 is probably that sweet spot that you're looking for. Not too long, but you still get enough swizzle as a short frame. I could see the interest, but then
the low ride height.
I'm a 44, so me trying the creates, I will probably not have a great experience because I will feel like maybe they're too short.
What length do you typically? What frame length do you?
I skate the large, which is 270. Yeah, okay. And my basic rule of thumb as a designer and a company owner that recommends frames is I usually go 15 millimeters shorter. 10 to 15 millimeters shorter than your foot length. So I'm 25 centimeter foot.
Yeah.
I would go 27 to 27.5 frame length. You are probably 27.5.
Sorry, can you reiterate that ratio?
Yeah.
So
it's usually about 10 to 15 millimeters shorter than how long your foot is.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it would make sense based on that ratio that as a 27.5 foot, you would like a 26 to 26.5 frame length, which would be creates, which would be the Wish FR.
That is very interesting.
Yeah.
I wish Like, it would be amazing in the future if some of these things were established. However,
what's the best
I think the establishment needs to be based on like a purpose, like a specific purpose. So like for a and it's so hard to pigeon or categorize people's purposes, right? Because there's so many different things going on.
And
that's what's kind of overwhelming about, like, me personally. I'm grinding is maybe 30 or 40% of my purpose, or my goal, and then jumps and airs are maybe 30%, and then swivel bops, groundwork is another maybe 30%, which confuses the hell out of my choices and what feels good, because a super short frame feels really good for certain things and in certain instances, and then a really long frame and like a big wheel. In a sense, I'm like annoyed with myself for complicating the activity so much. I'm envious of people like Broskow, who can he's got his anti-rocker setup, it works for him, and he doesn't fuck around with it. That's it. And there's no confusing himself with like, oh, I'm gonna try big wheels and I'm gonna try different frame lengths. He's just found what works for him, and he's dialed in. I wish I long for that simplicity.
We think so. We don't know what goes on inside
behind his head. That's the outside perspective.
What we see is he's riding anti-rocker creates probably the size medium. I don't know his foot size, but I would assume it's 42, and maybe he rides the smaller medium. What if he were actually looking at this and playing with different products and trying them out?
You never know. The scenes,
you going back to first conversation being so public, you share all this information. You and Joey are always testing stuff, and
some people they're less. They don't open up about.
Maybe they are, but they're not.
They don't talk about it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good point. I'm also like I think about how things used to be with skates before UFS. You would just you would get a pair of skates, and those were your skates. The frame was attached. When I got my Sci 5s, my rollerblade Sci 5s, those were the skates. I wasn't tweaking the frame. I wasn't tweaking the liner. I wasn't. I mean, maybe eventually I would change the wheels, but I'd probably ride the freaking stock wheels for like a year.
And when you changed
them, I didn't think about it. It wasn't like a constant like, oh, should I be tweaking my frame length? And I miss the simplicity of those days where the frame was designed for the boot. And this is what the manufacturer recommends. And this is what I'm rolling with. And I'm not even like, I enjoyed, and I used to be I would purposely not think about the technology. That was comforting for me. And I just would focus on what I could do with it. And I wouldn't blame the technology. I wouldn't like... my whole goal was to not think about it at all. Try to be oblivious to it.
That's exactly it.
I miss those days.
But in those days, companies also didn't focus on the technology. They focused on creating a skate. And their marketing points were bomb-proof or rigid. And it's like no optimization about big split or tight groove or thin wheelbase. Like,
and also being young and naive, ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
So, like young skaters, like my kids, they're not thinking like, oh, my frames are too short. I feel unstable.
This ride height is
nothing. Like they don't even like pull up their socks completely when they put the skates on. They're just like, whatever. They just put the things on and woo.
Yeah.
I miss that childlike innocence about it.
Absolutely.
You know, it's like the more you know, the more it hurts you.
It's very true.
It's like you get to a point where you just know way too much and you can't enjoy anything because you're just critical of fucking everything.
I would skate today, but these wheels are too coned.
They're too. My frames are 2 millimeters too long. I just can't deal with this. I'll just film you today. This is not working.
I'll just sit at the skate park.
So sometimes I try when I'm at my best, I'm really not thinking about my skates at all. I'm just enjoying skating.
And I think that's why
it was
got the setup, you know?
It was an emotional reaction, and almost, you know, in a sense, it was like rebelling against that analytical part of my brain. Yeah. So we'll see how it goes. I'm really excited.
It's going to
be excited to hang out.
And I mean, I will reiterate that we are thrilled as a blading community to have you down here. I think that you and Joey have done so much for the community, but you're always siloed into this little community in Canada. To get you out of that community and to come see other bladers, and I'm sure that you won't share, but when I dropped you off at the them shop last night before the video, do you want to tell the story or...
Yeah, well, yeah, you dropped me off, and it was an instant kind of there were the reaction of some of the kids that were hanging out outside the shop was really humbling. It was like, you know, it was like Brad Pitt just stepped out of the vehicle. It was that level of like awe, and I wasn't expecting that, and that is surprising, and that like the response that people have had is really crazy. It's a lot to deal with. I mean, it's cool. It inflates my ego, obviously.
Sure.
It is a lot to deal with emotionally when people have that reaction to me, because I'm used to, like, I am the 40-year-old dad with kids, and they are not impressed at all. My wife is not impressed with me. So to have people be impressed with me is very foreign. And it's cool, obviously. There's a part of me that is just like, yes, I am really cool. And then there's another part of me that's like dealing with the like emotionality of the ego inflation. That's like, don't like stay cool, man. Stay cool. Like, you're not it's a lot to deal with.
The glow will last until you get home and your wife says something.
You looked ridiculous. Why were you wearing this in those pictures?
This costume that you're in looks ridiculous. Did you wear this out? You come crashing back home,
back to reality
after you get home. I mean, I don't know. You know, I'm a huge fan. I think that you and Joey have put in years and years and years of work. Thankless hours of putting yourselves out there, and I know that you see the YouTube comments, and I know that you see the posts and everything, but I do hope that this weekend you're able to see how, and that Joey by extension can see how impactful mushroom blading has had on the industry. You know, without mushroom blading, we wouldn't have Intuitions as like the standard of liners. You guys spearheaded that. Spearhead's a bad word now, but pioneered that as a thing, and made it acceptable to ride Intuitions. I mean, big wheels, flat land stuff. You know, not since Nick Riggle and Eric Burke doing their stuff, their pelled stuff, have we really seen an extension of what can you do between grinds? What could you do without, you know, grinding things? There are a lot of people who really love that about you guys, and it's for me, it's really great to finally have you down here to see that with your own eyes. I can say it, but for you to see it, and for people to come, I'm sure that you'll spend some time at the booth hanging out, for people to come to the booth and see you and say hi and thank you. I think it's going to be really like, that's what I'm so excited about this weekend. Is just, you deserve this, dude. Like,
thank you.
You know what I mean? I do hope that we can get Joey down here in the future. I don't know if the flood of eyeballs and like all that is going to be good for his mental health. We'll find a time that in small increments that we can have him down here. But yeah, I mean I'm thrilled to have you down here. I think it's going to be a really great weekend, and I wish you luck in the event, and I hope that
thank you.
You do as good as you hope.
I just hope that I can have. I hope that it's a positive experience.
Yeah.
I hope that I can like get into a flow on any level.
Yeah.
That's my level.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't want to follow what people are doing. I don't want to fall into like the imagined expectation of what a person skating in the pro division should be doing.
Right.
I just want to do things that I want to do in a genuine sense. And my goal is to be uninfluenceable in that regard.
That's awesome.
Like just do the things that I want to do. If I want to just soul grind a curb, I'm just going to soul grind a curb and see where it goes. And if I can get into that emotional joy of skating on that stage, then it's successful. If I get in my head and I start to like hate myself, then it's a failure. So it's really just an emotional goal.
Yeah, I mean, if we can handle the rash before then,
I gotta take care of the rash, dude. I got to. That's goal number one. Let's get into the sun. I need to just bake in the sun a little bit.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. Thanks, man. This was great.